everyone, and welcome to another episode of Fahrenheit TV. It's Women's History Month, and tonight we have two extraordinary, phenomenal queens in the house who are using their platforms to uplift, educate, and empower our girls and women around the world. So I'm so excited for this episode. It's going to be super dope, full of great energy and much inspiration. Coming to you live at BNN Studios in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Stay tuned.
Fahrenheit TV.
Fahrenheit TV is a live monthly variety show that showcases people's greatness through narratives and artistic expression. We're back this summer to bring you more live, sizzling talk and entertainment to uplift your soul. Tune into our live episodes here on BNN TV or subscribe to our YouTube channel. Be sure to follow us on social media to keep up with all our latest news. We hope that you'll tune in. Hi everyone, thank you so much again for tuning in to another episode of Fahrenheit TV. I am your host and producer, Farrah June, and I'm so excited that you guys are watching this incredible episode. It's Women's History Month, and you know, Women's History Month to me is every day. Every day we have super women who are doing incredible, empowering things around the world. And tonight we're specifically going to be focusing on women's health. One of our guests is a Tufts University professor who has been doing the work for years, and she has such a beautiful, colorful spirit that I'm so excited to welcome to the show Dr. Amutah Onukagha. Thank you so much for coming on the show. Thank you. So I got the honor of meeting you in December at an event, and it's just like your energy, your spirit, I was just like, oh my gosh, it's so contagious, and I really love the work that you're doing. So can you, so you teach at Tufts University, you're a professor, and to me, an influencer as well. So how did you get into the public health / education field?
Well, I got into the field because I've always been very curious about why different people experience different things. So for instance, I grew up in Trenton, New Jersey, and I just remember just realizing that there were inequities as experienced by people of color. So when I was in high school, you know, I was a captain of the debate team, and we would go debate other schools, and they just had much more resources, and they had nicer computers and nicer buildings than us. So that got me curious as to why poverty can be a barrier to people's success. So then I went to college, and I was supposed to be a medical doctor, and then I ended up taking a public health class, and I fell in love with it, and I was like, this is what I want to do. Helping people at the population level prevent illness. So that's really what public health is about, educating people, getting the word out there, and just really making sure that the communities have what they need. And as someone that comes from communities of color and is serving communities of color, I really felt like it was my honor and obligation to carry the torch forward and also to be training students now as a professor.
And I'm so happy that you went on that, because your mission, like your presence on this world is so like needed. We need people like you advocating for us.
Thank you.
So like, I mean, you teach so many subjects at Tufts, so I'm like, you're super busy. That's why I was so happy that you were able to come on the show. And of course, and one of the, you talk about health disparities like you mentioned, and one of the disparities is maternal health. And to be honest with you, I never knew maternal health was a disparity in like communities of color until I heard about Erica Gardner, which is Eric Gardner's daughter, and she passed away unfortunately due to complications from pregnancy and stuff. And I was like, whoa, I didn't know that it affected our community so bad. So like, why? I know this is something you're very passionate about. Why are you passionate about it, and why is it so important?
Well, I'm passionate about it personally and professionally. I'm passionate about it personally because as a young woman of color growing up in an inner city community, I had a lot of friends in high school that had children, and I've also had friends that have died from complications of childbirth. So that, thank you. So that really hits home on a personal level as a teenager. You know, you're supposed to be getting ready for the prom and getting ready to go to college. You're not supposed to be going to funerals of people that are your own age. So that's what really started me in the field. And then as a professional, one of my colleagues, Dr. Shalon Irving, they actually did a story on her. She worked at CDC, and we had done a 2-year fellowship together. We sat right next to each other for 2 years, and we were really close. And then she also passed away, and she has a PhD. She was very high up in the federal government, had a lot of resources, and she passed away from complications of childbirth as well. And so, you know, personally, thank you. Personally and professionally as a woman of color, this disparity does not need to exist. We are in the United States, which has the best technology, the best highly trained doctors, but yet we still see this disparity for women of color who are 243% more likely to die 243% more likely to die from complications of childbirth. So why is that in a place like the United States where ideally we're all receiving the same quality of care? And there's many reasons that go into it, but after you've seen people on a personal and a professional side that have been impacted, and you realize that poverty is one of the indicators, but not really. It's so many other things like racism, discrimination, the dismissiveness from healthcare providers, the way Black women are received and perceived in the healthcare system. That really kind of solidified for me that this is the area I should be working in.
And it seems like it goes back into history because it's like, again, like, Black women are always seen as we're strong, we could take on a lot. So is that also one of the main reasons why it's still like affecting us more?
Yes, the historical context. So I don't know if you've heard of someone called James Marion Sims. For a long time, he was called the father of modern gynecology. But in reality, he practiced a lot of his gynecological techniques that we now enjoy today, like pap smears and some of the gynecological procedures that women go through when they go to the hospital, were perfected on the bodies of Black slave women. And so
obviously he did it for free,
with no anesthesia, because they feel like Black women can have higher thresholds of pain, and that we're conditioned to go through these really harsh conditions more so than our white counterparts. And so a lot of the techniques that Black women and women of color all around the world, really all women, are going through today, were perfected on the bodies of Black slave women like Miss Betsy, Miss Lucy, Miss Anarcha, and I have to say their names because when we talk about the father of gynecology, he's lauded as a hero, but he really was a horrible person who did all these things to women with no anesthesia, and that's how we have some of the techniques that we have today. So the historical context around the mistrust of people of color in the healthcare system, the dismissiveness of Black women's symptoms, the just total proliferation of abuse of Black women's bodies is still very, very current today. There's a lot of research that supports that. Even I teach at a medical school, and a lot of students, even in today's medical society, still feel like Black women have higher thresholds of pain, or we don't feel pain.
Still with today. All of the information that we have still today.
So there's a lot of misperception and a lot of mistrust. And I just think there's really a dismissiveness from the larger healthcare system about what Black women go through. And we have experiences like Erica Garner, like Serena Williams,
I watched that whole documentary, and it's just the things she was going through, and I was like, and even the way people were just seeing her in society, that outside the medical field, I'm like, she's a woman too. She's a woman. She's gonna feel pain. Like, she's a regular person,
and she had to fight for herself like anybody else. Even with her stature, her money, her reputation, when she went to the nurse and said that she was having symptoms and she felt something was off, and she had to really advocate and fight for herself to get the test that she needed, because lo and behold, she did have a blood clot in her lung that could have killed her. So this is what I'm saying. There's no formula for this racism and the discrimination that Black women face. It can affect everybody from a young teenager in Brooklyn all the way to someone that has a stature like Serena Williams.
And I'm so happy that you said those women that you said before that you did all those tests on with no permission, I'm pretty sure.
No consent.
So because it's Women's History Month, we have to honor those heroes.
Absolutely.
And it's crazy to me that with all the information, we still have to advocate and
it's an uphill battle. It's an uphill battle. Every time a woman of color interfaces with the medical system and the healthcare system, it's an uphill battle. We have to advocate for ourselves. We have to go in armed with information, and we have to hold these providers accountable for the services that they deliver to us and the way that we receive care from them.
Okay. Well, I have so much more questions.
Okay,
but we're going to take a quick break.
Okay, sure.
And when we come back, we're going to talk more about maternal health, about maybe conversations we could be having with ourselves, with our providers. So stay tuned, everyone.
Okay, thank you.
Wow, this is deep. Whoa.
It goes down.
Observe a domesticated human family in their natural habitat, known to their species as the backyard.
Hey, you think I should light it now? Yeah?
Oh dear, someone is about to burn a pile of debris that's too tall, which can start a wildfire. Wait, could it be? Blimey, it is.
It's Smokey.
It's Smokey Bear. What a legend.
Hey, it's Smokey. Sorry, it was too high. Right.
Watch as he astutely ensures that there's no wind, and how he removes some of the debris to create a smaller, safer burning pile.
No, you said make it bigger, baby. The bigger the better.
Take note of our fearless furry friend here, humans.
I appreciate it. Fist bump.
Watching you.
Smokey's done it again.
Bye, Smokey.
Only you can prevent wildfires.
Fahrenheit TV.
everyone. Thank you so much again for tuning in to Fahrenheit TV. We're having an awesome discussion with Tufts University Professor Dr. Onukagha on maternal health. And before we went on the break, we were talking about some of the disparities that Black women face and some of the social stigmas that got into that. And so often it's always like, oh, well, you know, like, should Black women be doing this? Should we be? And I don't know if that's a silly question to ask, but like, what should we be doing when we go to the doctors? Like, how about if you don't know, like, certain questions to ask? Like, what should we be doing to advocate for ourselves?
So a couple things I always tell women is to take somebody with you that you trust. So when you're the patient, you're only going to hear a certain percentage of what the doctor is saying, because again, when you walk into a medical provider's office, your body's going to physiologically have maybe higher blood pressure, or your pulse is going to race because you're in an environment that's not really your everyday environment. So I always say take somebody with you that can listen and write down questions. You know, do your homework before you step into a provider's office, and also feel the energy of the doctor. You know, if you have a doctor that you don't have a good relationship with, switch providers. You have that agency, you have that advocacy for yourself, that you don't have to stay with the doctor that you feel like is not listening to you, does not care for you, does not give you enough time, does not make eye contact with you. These are the things, you know, that does not shake your hand when you walk into the room. These are the things that you have to kind of trust your gut on. And if you have somebody that you don't have a good relationship with, you should be able to switch providers or even hospitals. So I always tell women, you are the prize, you are the client, and really they're here to serve us. They don't make their money if they don't have patients, and they don't have anybody to bill insurance for. So we have to take that agency back into our own hands.
And then should there be like a list of questions that you go in with for yourself, or kind of like you just kind of like feeling the vibes of how
it depends. So it depends on where the woman is in her reproductive health. If a woman is trying to conceive, there are certain questions. If a woman is already pregnant, if a woman is postpartum, if a woman is a new parent, if a woman is, you know, preparing for her annual exam. It really depends on what the woman is going in for. But regardless of what the visit is about, it could just be a wellness visit. You know, you should have your questions ready, and you should make these providers give you the time that you deserve. If you are in there and you just say, oh, I'm fine, I have no symptoms, but you know you've either having pelvic pain or, you know, back pain, or your discharge looks different, or whatever it is you're going through reproductively, that's the time for you to share with the provider and make them answer your questions. And maybe you need some blood work done, or you got to get a urine sample, but don't let them rush you out of the room and go to the next patient. Make sure you get all your questions answered and you feel comfortable leaving the visit.
And I'm so glad that you're saying this, because a lot of times I know we get scared to even speak up about things we're going through. And I know it's culturally sensitive too, because you know, everybody's like, oh, I'm not gonna tell the stranger everything I'm feeling, but it's important because your health matters, and again, they are there to help you.
And they're trained. There's nothing that you can say that they haven't already heard, or they haven't already experienced, or that they don't anticipate. So it's really to your detriment to not say that, because they're expecting the full spectrum of responses that you can give. So if you know that you're going through something, that's your time to speak up. You're not going to be embarrassed. Everything is confidential. They're there to serve you as a patient, and you really should feel comfortable building that relationship. That's why it goes back to trust. And who is your provider? Do you have a relationship with them? And what kind of energy do you get from that person? Because the better you have a relationship and you build a rapport, then you're going to feel more comfortable opening up about your sexual history or whatever's going on. So it just takes that time to build a relationship, but I totally believe that all women should advocate for themselves, and if they have a provider that is not serving their needs, they should get someone else.
And I agree 1,000% on that, because it is about trust. If you don't trust someone, you don't feel comfortable, one, you're not going to even want to go there.
You're not even going to go.
So, you know, so it starts right at that foundation.
At that level, yes.
And I don't know if this is a silly question, but like, can we prevent maternal infant mortality?
Yeah, I mean, that's a very layered question. It's a layered question because a lot of it, so there are many contributors to maternal and infant mortality. Some of it is physiologically. So there's a term called weathering that was developed by a professor, Dr. Aril Geronimus, out of the University of Michigan. So the weathering hypothesis states that Black women physiologically age faster because of the combined and cumulative effects of stress on our bodies. So reproductively, Black women are 5 to 7 years older than their white counterparts. So you have the weathering, you have the allostatic load, you have cortisol, all these biomarkers that are constantly heightened in Black women, which puts Black women and women of color at risk for preterm birth and stillbirth and infant mortality. So that is kind of like the cumulative burden of discrimination and stress and racism, which is a little bit harder to unpack. There are things that we as women can do, like definitely watching, you know, our cholesterol levels, our hypertension levels, like getting our annual checkups, like those things that we can kind of intervene at. But the rest of it is kind of more physiologically embedded in our makeup from being a woman of of color in a place like the United States.
And that's so unfortunate. I mean,
Yeah.
we have a lot of work to do in this
We have a
society
tremendous
to make
ways
it
to go.
like, a safe environment for our women and girls.
Safe and healthy.
Healthy, yes.
Yes,
So I'm glad that you
yes.
brought that up, because
Thank
that
you.
means everyone out there has
Yes.
a duty. Everyone has a duty.
Everyone.
Make sure you're doing
yes,
your duty.
Absolutely.
Yes. So you're having an exciting
Yes.
event coming up, which I want to
Yes.
talk. I'm going to be there, so I'm
Good.
excited.
I'm excited to
It
see
is
you.
the second annual Black Maternal Health Symposium.
Yes.
So can you tell us about the event
Yes.
and like what inspired you to create this event?
Yes. Well, first of all, thank you, and I'm glad you're going to be there.
Yes, yes.
So we did it last year. So there's a national organization called the Black Mamas Matter Alliance, which is a national organization that was started in 2015, kind of to address what we're talking about, reproductive justice, maternal mortality for women of color nationally. So last year was their first ever Black Maternal Health Week. And so we did an event, and Tufts University School of Medicine, where I work, was the only organization in New England that actually responded to their national call for collaboration. So we were the only people in New England that had something for Black Maternal Health Week. So that was April 13th
Well,
last
big up
year.
to Tufts for doing
Well,
that.
I was the one that as soon as I got the email, I said, we have to do
do this.
something.
Yeah, of course.
It's a missed opportunity if you don't take up that mantle. So last year we had 226 people in attendance, which was great. And we had a panel of speakers. We had all women of color OBs on the panel, which was fantastic. We
Yeah.
had 2 OBs, we had a nurse midwife, we had a director of health services, 4 beautiful women of color. The audience was full of doulas and health workers and students.
Yes.
It was beautiful.
And I don't, you don't really see that a lot. Like, you know what I
Exactly,
mean? When you go to the
exactly.
doctors, I'm just like, oh, you might
Exactly.
see like a sprinkle of someone that might look like
Exactly,
me. So
exactly.
it's nice to
it
see
was
that.
wonderful.
Yeah.
So this year we have a different focus. So last year the panel was made up of clinicians as the experts. This year is more of the community as the experts, and the clinicians are in the audience. So we have a
nice,
keynote
nice.
speaker who is Dr. Joya Kriya Perry. So she's kind of like the founder or the godmother of the National Black Mamas movement. And so she's out of New Orleans. She's an OB. She's a Black woman, and she's going to talk about her work, in reproductive health and birth equity and social justice. So she's going to be our keynote. And then we have a panel of 3 maternal health advocates. We have Tamoria McQueen Saba, who was a woman that delivered and almost hemorrhaged to death, and so she delivered her first child in 2014,
thank God.
and had a
Yeah.
near-death experience, and so now that has turned her into this maternal advocate across the state of Massachusetts, really going to bat for women of color and what they experience in the healthcare system. Then we have Marissa Luce, who's going to talk about her childbirth experience delivering in Boston healthcare hospitals, and then also Nashira Baril, who's going to start a birth center for women in the city of Boston. So right now, if a
Yes,
woman
this is
wants
so
to,
good.
it's amazing.
Oh
The
my
panel's going to be
God.
amazing.
Look at all these super women
I
like
know.
taking charge and
Yes,
making an
yes,
impact. I
yes.
love it.
It's going to be a great panel. So right now, there's no place for women to deliver in the city of Boston if you don't want to go to a hospital. We have a birthing center in Cambridge, but there's no Boston-based birth center. So Nashira is taking
That's
up
insane with Massachusetts being like
exactly,
the
a very progressive
Yeah.
state. There's no birthing center in the city of Boston. So she's starting that, and she's starting to put that together. So that's our panel. And we'll have a networking reception. We'll have a Q&A, and it's going to be great.
I'm so, and
Yes.
this is it a free event? Is it open
Free,
to the
open
public?
to the public. It's going to be Friday, April 12th from 3 to 7
Okay.
at Tufts School of Medicine, 145 Harrison Avenue. We'll have pre-registration and also on-site registration.
So
Yes.
there's no excuse.
There's no
Like,
excuse. You
there's
can
no
literally
excuse.
come the day of.
Wow, this is awesome. And you get food.
And you get
And you
food.
get some knowledge,
Yes,
some
yes,
inspiration, some
yes.
great, resources.
Absolutely.
In a room full of melanin,
Beautiful melanated queens, all up and through.
I can't wait. Like, this is
Thank
going to
you.
make my life.
Yes,
I
it's gonna be
can't
worth
wait.
it, yes.
So, I'm excited for that event.
Yes.
And I wanted to ask you, it's Women's History Month.
Yes.
What does that mean to you as an extraordinary, phenomenal
Thank you.
influencer?
Thank you.
Queen in this world.
Thank you. To me, it means many things. It means I stand on the shoulders of great women like my grandmother, who was the village midwife where we come from in Nigeria, in Mbise and Ofama. That's the village. That's my maternal village in Nigeria. And she delivered all the babies in the village, breech births, stillbirths, home births. And, my grandmother had no formal education, but she was a warrior. She was a leader. So I come from that. I also
it's in
come
your
from
DNA,
it's
that
in my
greatness.
DNA. And then my
Yes.
mother, who's also an amazing woman, raised 4 children. But then also, there's a lot of women in the United States that have really paved the way. So I talked about the 3 women, Anarcha, Lucy, and Betsy. Also Fannie Lou Hamer, she's one of my idols from the Civil Rights Movement.
Yes.
Sick and tired of being sick and tired. Shirley Chisholm.
Yes.
Just a beautiful
Yes.
black woman. And then coming to today's time, Michelle Obama, Kamala Harris. So all of those women, I pick up pieces of their DNA and their creativity and their leadership and their fearlessness. And that's what I try to embody.
And I'm picking up some of your fearlessness because
Thank
you
you.
are empowering so many. You're empowering
Thank
me.
you.
Like, we're so honored to have you on the
Thank
show.
you. Thank
so can
you.
you tell us again how we could get tickets to the
Yes,
event?
yes.
And and how to contact you
Yes,
as well.
absolutely. So we have a Facebook page called BMM at Tufts. You can also tweet us at BMM Tufts. You can also send us an email, bmm@tufts.edu. And then all the contact information is on the flyer. And like I said, people can come on site and register. Registration starts at 3 o'clock on Friday, April 12th. And we are welcoming everybody. We have a main auditorium. We even have an overflow room booked in anticipation of a lot of people coming.
Yeah.
So we can accommodate hundreds of people. So
Oh.
we're also providing childcare. People have to sign up in advance. If they have children, you can bring your kids, and the kids will be watched, and you can enjoy the event. So it's going to be really, really nice.
Oh my God!
Yes.
Like, if you're not there, I don't know what
I
you're
don't know
doing.
where you are.
It's free. There's food. There's childcare. There's
Yes.
phenomenal queens in the room.
Yes.
You need to be there.
Absolutely.
So thank you so much
Thank
for coming on the
you.
show.
Thank
like,
you.
It really is an honor to be
Oh,
with an
likewise.
extraordinary person like
Likewise.
you. So
Thank you so much.
you.
Fahrenheit TV.
Magic girl. Magic girl. Magic girl.
Fahrenheit TV.